Hey everybody, this is Robb Rivera from Nonpoint, and you're listening to Discography Discussion.
Yeah, and I couldn't find those. I'd love to find those, but they'd probably be pretty hard. I used to be really good at getting those getting independent albums and stuff, but
yeah, Separate Yourself is actually on iTunes. Not Struggle.
Okay.
I think Struggle would probably be an eBay type of thing.
Right.
I don't even have a copy of Struggle. So just put it that way.
That's how rare it is.
I don't even have a copy of Separate Yourself either.
That's a whole different type of injustice. I don't have a copy of my own album.
Yeah, I have everything else except those two. I have no idea where they went. I may have given them to somebody, or kind of passed it along for somebody to have it. But Separate Yourself is definitely on iTunes.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't look in the store. I think I just checked the Apple Music, the streaming, because a lot of the stuff that's on iTunes is on there.
I don't know if Separate Yourself is available on streaming. That's a good question. I have no idea.
I want to say I saw somebody had uploaded the whole thing to YouTube, which is...
Oh, YouTube has got pretty much every fucking album that exists out there.
Pretty much.
There's so much stuff on YouTube.
I know whenever we end up doing the Taproot discography, it's going to be a lot of searching for stuff, too. Some of those old albums and demos, because we'll talk about them if we can find them, but a lot of the time, if I can't find it on YouTube, then as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't exist.
I agree there.
And if you're ready for a bullet with a mind trip, then you are ready for this episode of Discography Discussion. I am Joe, that is Dan, that is Robb Rivera of Nonpoint.
Hello.
And we are talking about...
Nonpoint.
There's a lot of Nonpoint to talk about.
There definitely is. This is definitely one of those discographies that was so large that we took a little bit of extra time to go through.
Yeah, 9 records. It's 9 records, right?
Yeah, it takes a long time. I mean, every now and again, people complain that our podcast is a little bit too long, but it's one of those, man, you talk about 9 or 10 records in less than an hour, that's hard to do.
Agreed.
But that's what we're going to attempt to do tonight. Probably not going to be in less than an hour, but
let's say it's gonna be a little less than 90 minutes.
There you go.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
Well, before we start talking about Nonpoint with Robb Rivera, I want to take some time to say thank you to everyone for listening to the podcast. Thank you for listening and for subscribing. If you are not a subscriber, you can find everything Discography Discussion at discussmetal.com. We are on Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, so if you have an Amazon Echo or a Google Home, you have no excuse. Ask it to play the latest episode of the Discography Discussion podcast, and it will. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter at Discuss Metal. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe. It really helps us out. It lets us know you're listening. And now Dan is going to tell us all about 5-star reviews.
We love 5-star reviews here on Discography Discussion. And whenever we get one, we will read one on the podcast for you all to hear. Thank you so much for everybody that has reviewed us so far. And we just want to thank you guys for your continued support. All right, I just want to give a quick shout out to all of our patrons who have supported us on Patreon thus far. That would include Jeffrey Santos, Alexander, Zach Barr. Thank you guys so much. We couldn't do this without you.
And for anyone that has not joined Patreon, $1 will get you into an exclusive album review feed where we feature weekly album reviews and other exclusive content that we are currently producing.
Well, let's start it off at the beginning, or the beginning as far as most people are concerned. I know that when Nonpoint first started, you guys are actually... Was Nonpoint Factor considered Nonpoint before Nonpoint, or would you consider it a different band entirely?
It was an entirely different band, different members. We did around in that era, I think we were playing Orgullo, who was a song that was on Statement. But I'm not 100% certain. But as far as I'm concerned, the Nonpoint that people know today starts with Statement. Obviously, we had some local CDs before, we signed the record deal. But, I think the true Nonpoint that people know starts with Statement.
Gotcha.
I know when I first heard Nonpoint, we talked about it on the show before, but it was Recoil. Walking into my drum lesson and having Rob... Yes, my drum teacher's name was Rob, by the way. Hand me a copy of Recoil and say, listen to this. We're going to play this. all of this. And that's where it started for me.
Which
Wow,
song?
That's
In the Air Tonight.
All of it.
All of it.
The whole thing.
wow. That's I'm flattered. That was a fun album to make for sure.
So yeah, Statement was actually the first one that I heard. I remember I picked it up at a used CD shop for I think it was like $5 or something. Which I mean, back then in the early 2000s, $5 for a full length album was a steal. Back when CDs cost $17.99 each.
Oh yeah, I remember those days.
Unless you were shopping off the bargain rack at Target, then they were $7 on Wednesday.
Right. I remember the first thing I thought whenever I heard it was, God, these guys are pissed off. Like, it is undoubtedly, I mean, it's an angry record, but it's not like a stupid angry record, if that makes sense. Like, you get some bands that are just angry, and that's all it is. But I think what kept me going with Nonpoint is that you had the screams, you had the rhythmic delivery, you had all of those key factors that you'd want out of an aggressive rock album or metal album at the time, but there was a little bit more finesse to it. There was potential for growth there, and that record still gets played every now and again just for the sheer aggression of it and just kind of the emotional delivery. I think the thing that stood out to me the most on Statement was the vocals, especially, was just that, just the delivery is so, no pun intended, on point.
Yeah.
As opposed to not on point.
Right. Yeah. And I just love that emotional delivery. I liked that the lyrics weren't just like this generic, I hate everyone hates me, whatever. If there's hate there, it's explained,
Well, I mean, Elias came from a different background than, I guess, all of his peers at the time. Elias came from a very rhythm and blues, hip-hop style background. So he used those kind of lyrics and put that kind of delivery into the music. I mean, when we first got together with Elias, when we figured out that he could scream, sing, and rap, and to find that combination was, I believe, I was just blessed to be able to find a singer that had, that many different styles, and on Statement, I mean, you can hear the rapping, you can hear the singing, you can hear the screaming. I mean, I think that's really what stood out, what has always stood out by us, is that Elias has been very versatile with his vocal delivery. And still to this day, he does all that stuff. He does the rapping, the screaming, and the singing, and we got a lot of compliments on that album as far as his vocal delivery went. And it was a fun record to make. At the same time, it was very stressful because it's my first time in a real studio with a real producer, and first time ever recording to a click track. And the previous albums before that, I never recorded a click track. We had just, me and Andy and Ken, we recorded at Studio 13 in Deerfield Beach, Florida, with our friend Jeremy Staska, and we recorded live, all of us, at the same time. And just the instrument part of the stuff, Elias would record afterwards. So I got used to the click really, really quickly. But when songs like Mind Trip and Double Stacked and those two and Hive had different tempo changes, as opposed to a song like Endure and What a Day, which had the same tempo, those were easy songs to record. But those other three, goddamn, that was I broke so many sticks and I screamed so much in that session, because it was, those songs to me did not need a click track. And that's just there's a different emotion behind those songs, because we would slow it down, and like each bar would slow down, and it's so hard to map out a click to do that. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a click, but when it's a steady click, it's so much easier. you know, and if it's like you have to go from a 4/8 change to a 5/8 change, oh man, it got so stressful for me. and I would tell my producer, you know, it's like, can we record this live? Why does it need to be to a click? I mean, we're a very tight band, but they mapped it out, and honestly, like, still to this day, like especially Mind Trip, I don't feel like it captured what it captured, like when we played it live. You know, like it sounds very too mechanical to me. You know, like it just didn't have the vibe that we were hoping. You know, but all in all, I mean, it was the first record. It was really a lot of fun. You know, like I recorded 5 versions of each song. I did that like in a week, and
that sounds exhausting. Yeah,
it was very exhausting, but I was so excited about doing an album, you know, that I wasn't tired. You know, it was great because I was like, man, I'm making my first actually going to be nationally released album, and it was really a lot of fun. You know, Jason like really worked us hard. We had a lot of battles with him in the studio, because, you know, we wanted things a certain way ourselves. You know, like we had never done everything ourselves up to that time. You know, nobody really told us what to do as far as writing music and stuff like that. You know, but it was fun, man. It was a lot of fun, and I look back on it and I wish I could have changed things. You know, but at the same time, you know, it exposed us. It got us on killer tours. We had a label that believed in us and spent a lot of money on our band, you know. So I'm blessed and grateful that record was able to come out.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an emotional record. I can totally see, you know, that there would have been conflicts, you know, as far as, you know, you guys kind of coming into it and being like, well, these are our songs, and they're very personal, and, you know, we wrote them this specific way. So to have somebody say, well, maybe you should do it this way, or, you know, do it that way. They're not the bad guy. They're just trying to make the record as good as they can make it.
Yeah, like Mind Trip was actually, you know, how it starts. You're about to take a Mind Trip. He wanted that to repeat again, and the song.
Okay.
So he wanted that to be the chorus.
Interesting.
He wanted to completely. That was our producer, Jason. Wanted to restructure that whole song, and we put the kibosh on that shit. Like hell, I said, fuck no, we're not doing that. So we have other songs that we have other new songs that we wrote, but these songs are not going to be touched. But the song Victim, we actually rearranged. And also Years is also an old track that the only thing we changed on that song is we changed the bridge. We wrote a new bridge for it. But pretty much all the other older stuff stayed pretty much the same. But yeah, when he wanted us to repeat that on Mind Trip, we're like, fuck no, we're not doing that. There's no fucking down. Way.
Yep.
Yeah, we totally put our foot down, and he lost that battle really fast.
I've sat in the engineer's chair a few times, and I always ask the band, because I've recorded several of my friends and a couple of their acquaintances and a few people that said, well, we need to record some music for a demo, and I always ask them, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to sit here and press record, or do you want me to give you input? And the answer I always get is, or at least has been for me, well, you know, tell us what you think, you know, we trust you. And inevitably there's that song that, as a engineer, that hearing it differently than the band has heard it for the past 6 months they've been playing it together, you say to yourself, I don't know what this is really about, guys, but that one thing you did right there, you need to do that about 7 or 8 more times. And it's always interesting to me, either the band goes along with it and tries it, or they're so confident in their music that they just say, nope, this is how it's going to be, and we're going to do it this way, and we're not changing it.
Yeah, I mean, we have always been open, I mean, to a lot of suggestions over our career, you know, but that song in particular, it did so well locally. It was such a favorite of the local scene, you know, that we didn't want to mess with it. And even after we released Statement, the local fans felt betrayed and all this other shit, and because the song sounded different. I said, well, what do you expect? We went to a different studio, it's a different engineer. You know, they felt like it didn't sound like the local CD. And the local CD, I mean, we recorded that local CD in 3 days. You know, we did this record in 2 months. We were there, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it was a little different process. So, but we made sure that the song didn't get touched because of the local love that that song just was just so huge locally that we didn't want to mess with it, you know. And I said, we have, you know, that's why we wrote a bunch of new songs, you know, that way, you know, we don't have to worry about, you know, people who are familiar with the original Mind Trip be like, wait, why is it saying it twice? What happened to this part? What happened to that part? You know, so.
It's weird, too, because as a fan of a band, I like hearing different versions of songs. I don't know if you guys feel that way, but like I like sometimes bands will release, you know, re-release an album and they'll re-release like for example, Metallica re-released Master of Puppets recently, and it came with like, I mean, the version I got like 3 bonus discs on it, and it's like all demo versions of the songs, you know, original ideas, like riff ideas and stuff. And like as a diehard fan, I mean, I love all of that shit.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear James Hetfield record Master of Puppets just on the guitar. You know, like he was just laying down the ideas, and it was very interesting, like how good it actually sounded too.
Yeah,
wow,
yeah,
that shit sounds really good. But yeah, I mean, we try to keep things very, like they say, real on the first album, but we had plenty new songs for the producer to mess around with, you know. So
right.
Interesting enough, like What a Day. That song originally started with a drum beat, and you know, on the record starts down, starts with that bluesy thing. Well, when that song got to the mixer actually rearranged it. And when we heard it, it was like, what happened to the drum beat? I said, yeah, it wasn't working. So then when he played it, we're like, okay, that makes sense. You know, like we didn't get upset about that. You know, we weren't like, oh, we want it the way it was or shit like that. You know, he actually made the song better.
Right.
But that's how we recorded it with the engineer. But the mixer guy was the one that changed the song.
Whenever a change like that gets made, did you guys like conform to that? Like if a song got rearranged, did you guys conform it to that standard live so that the fans would recognize it from the record, or did you play it the original way you had intended it?
No, we do it like on the record. Like I said, when the things are changed, like we are extremely open-minded for ideas outside the box. On our first record, there were just certain songs we didn't want to touch because we have played them for 3 years, you know. So, but the new songs that we wrote for that album and everything after that, we have been an open book and open to suggestions for anything, you know. So but once whatever's recorded on the actual nationally released album, that's what gets played. We don't mess around with the arrangement or anything like that. So
now this Statement was a pretty huge record for you guys as far as, so I mean, I guess going from being a band that, you know, hadn't really, I mean, had you guys toured internationally prior to that, or?
No, not at all. We were just playing, like South Florida and South and Central Florida. That's it. We didn't really play. Our first gig out of the state was like in Mississippi. It was right after we recorded the album, you know, like we recorded the album like in March of 2000, and then July of 2000 is when we started doing shows, you know, like out of state. We did like 2 or 3 shows out of state, you know, kind of get the ball rolling little by little. But no, we hadn't played anything out of the state of Florida, or even out of. We had stopped at Central Florida. We hadn't gone anywhere north of Orlando in our career, like before we got signed.
So that was a pretty big deal for you guys then.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was cool. I mean, when MCA sat us down to give us a deal, Hans Haydel, our A&R guy, the guy who signed us, he sat us down at Cheesecake Factory. We had this dinner with him. I think it was lunch or dinner. I don't remember. But he said, we're gonna buy you a van and trailer. We're gonna put you on the road for 18 months, and that's exactly what we did.
Wow.
We did like I think like almost 300 shows in 18 months.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I couldn't even imagine that. I mean, I remember Joe and I played music for a while when we were younger, and I mean, even whenever we would go and play shows out of town, like little festivals and stuff, like I remember being like, dude, there's no way I could do this, you know, for 18 months or for, you know, like.
There's a certain mentality, and you physically and mentally, you have to be, those two things have to be 100%. Otherwise, you can't do it. You know, and we've been lucky, you know, that we're physically and mentally, we're strong when it comes to that. You know, we've been we've been a touring band, basically. People know that we tour hard and long, but it takes a certain mentality, a certain frame of mind to do something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, by the time 2002 rolls around, you guys have gone, you know, completely to a new level as a band, which is where we end up with Development.
Okay, with Development, in 2001, around our first headlining tour, right after the Ozfest, we did our first headlining tour ever with Switched, Reveille, and Darwin's Waiting Room. And on the way to our first gig, we stopped in Nashville, Tennessee. MCA bought us a Pro Tools rig. And
oh, wow.
A guy, we went there and a guy was teaching us how to use it. We installed all that stuff in the back of the bus and start writing our second record on the road. That's why they bought us a Pro Tools rig, so we can start writing. They wanted us, as soon as we were done recording, to go right into the studio and record the second record. So basically, we wrote all these songs on an Elisa's drum machine, like just programming drums and recording all these demos in the back lounge of the bus. And I think we finished the tour with Fuel and Seven Dust. This is after 18 months and like almost 300 shows of touring. 3 days later, we're in pre-production for our second record.
That's crazy, because I was going to ask you that. I was like, because you went on tour after Statement for 18 months, and we got Development in 2002. And I was like, damn, I mean, they had to have been writing some of that stuff while on tour. We
started writing that stuff. That's the thing, like, people say, a lot of people like that record. Me, I'm not a fan of it. And I'll tell you why. Because we wrote it in the back of the bus. And we really didn't have any time to take those songs and work them, like play them and rehearse them. And like, you understand what I'm saying? Like,
for sure, yeah.
It was so hard to go. I mean, 3 days fucking later, we were in pre-production for the fucking album. After 18, like, I am totally not even decompressed from tour. I'm still like just so tired and out of it. I'm in there trying to play drums. And then this is in December of 2001. So like, we drove all the way from St. Paul, Minnesota to Florida on the bus. And we're fucking 3 days later, right there in the rehearsal room. And we're like, oh my God, can we relax? Can we just take this rest of December off? That's what I wanted.
Right.
To take the holiday, to be home for the holidays and take time off for the holidays.
How does that work? Are you all sitting in the back with acoustics playing together, trying to put the songs together, or is one person taking turns on the Pro Tools?
Well, Andy was the Pro Tools guy. He had his guitar, and he was, playing through a pod, and he had his, he had an electric guitar back there. He had his Ernie Ball, and our bassist was back there. I was programming drums with Andy, and then Elias would sing. He'd do it would be part by part, like, how you do a record. But, and we wrote, I think, 12 songs back there in 6 months. And we didn't write anything extra or nothing. Those are the 12 songs that we wrote. Those are the ones that went on. Whatever's on the record is what we wrote. I don't even think we made an extra song. And the thing is, like, we didn't really get to work. I mean, there's some real nice gems. Like, I love Your Signs. I love Excessive Reaction. The song Hands, I think it's an epic style track. But there were others that just we didn't get the time to really work those songs. It was like we just put part by part, boom, done. It's like we never got to the point where, like, do we really like this riff? Do we really like this melody? Do we like this arrangement? It's like we didn't get to work that time. So basically, this is what happened. We're going in there. I think we did 2 weeks of pre-production. We take a break for Christmas, and at the beginning of January, we were in the studio recording this stuff. Like, it's no time at all to decompress, to sit back. I recorded the drums in 3 days. And I think that record was released in June of 2002.
Yeah.
So it's like, basically came home, pre-production, record the album. From the time I came home, 6 months later, we had a new record on the shelves. Like, I would have at least liked to have waited like at least a year, to write stuff and to really, and I think the good thing about that record is we got to work with Bob Clearmountain, who he mixed the album. He did like Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen. He's like done all these huge records. So that was the really good thing about that album. I just can't listen to that record myself. And like, I can't even put that record on.
It's definitely the most different Nonpoint record out there. And I think, do you think that, not to derail you, but do you think that the reason that record was a little bit less aggressive than Statement was because you guys were tired? Like, that you were just not feeling it, or was it just an intentional choice?
I think, Elias had come to us saying, I'm not going to scream or rap on the album. Like, he just wanted to sing. But he wound up screaming a couple things, but not to the point where, like, not to the amount like he did on Statement.
Right.
And that really, when we released that album and we started seeing the reviews, fans were really pissed off. Like the ones that got into Statement, they felt like it was too much of a departure. And I agree. I think it was not. Like I said, we just didn't have the time to work on it. There's people that love the record. Some of our fans think it's our best album, and I disagree 100%. But you can't. Some people, you can't tell a person what to like and what not to like. Like, they found something on the album that connected with them. So at the same time, I was happy. But at the same time, me personally, I'm a metal guy. I'm a thrash metal guy. I like hardcore. I like really heavy stuff. So for me, I had a personal battle with that album, because it just, like I said, we didn't really get to work that record as much as we had liked. And the label wanted to strike while the iron is hot type of thing, and just, man, we did a lot of touring on Statement. That first record, Statement, I think sold like 300,000 copies or something like that. So they really wanted to continue the train, so, but I think that hurt us career-wise by doing that. I really think we should have taken more time to write, maybe even write other songs that had never even made it, that we didn't get to maybe write the song. We just wrote those songs and recorded it. That's it.
Well, did it though? I mean, in the sense that, like, when this record came out and I heard it as a fan, I definitely was like, oh, it's not really as heavy as the other record was, but I didn't mind that as much because I'm the kind of guy that doesn't like it when a band just does the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Like, I love Slayer, but like, I don't really have to like choose which Slayer album I put on.
Yeah.
Because I know it's going to be, the same experience more or less.
Yeah.
But I remember when Development came out, I remember that was the first time I started hearing Nonpoint on the radio more. And I started hearing, because Circles, our local radio station played the shit out of that.
I really, really like that song.
Yeah, that's
one of my favorite Nonpoint songs that we actually don't even play. We should take it out.
Yeah, for sure.
We should dust it off. I think people would like that. And But yeah, I mean, it did get some radio play. I mean, Your Signs in like Las Vegas, it was the number one song in that station for months. It was so weird, and but Your Signs didn't do as well as What a Day, at radio, So I don't know. I mean, I know Circles got added to like a NASCAR game,
yeah,
a little an Xbox game or whatever, and that really exposed us huge. That really, we got a lot of love on Circles because of that. But
yeah,
I mean, I'm proud of the record. I mean, I love every record. I love some more than others. But it definitely was not what I would have preferred after Statement. But it is what it is. You live and learn, and we made sure that that we never did that again. So
I would say my favorite tracks off of Development were Any Advice and Hide and Seek, and I just liked those songs because number one, they're catchy as all hell.
Yeah.
But the lyrics, like especially on Any Advice, I hadn't really heard that from a heavy band. Like something that was just like so personal and so thought provoking. Like that song really struck a chord with me, and it ended up being one of my favorite Nonpoint songs. It's funny because it's definitely like not my favorite Nonpoint album overall, but those two songs, man, I've been known to listen to those two songs just in conjunction with each other, because they fit together really well. So like, I mean, I think this record was good for you guys, if only for the sense that like it did open you up to an audience that wouldn't necessarily have listened to Statement. In the sense that like that was a really aggressive record, and not everybody's into aggressive music. So, to hear something like that was really, I don't know. I really enjoyed it, and I liked that. That there was a little bit more. That was my first hint that like there's a little bit more below the surface on Nonpoint. That your the lyrical content is actually like intelligent and not just angry, and pretty thought-provoking. So I mean that was the only thing that like really struck me about that record. And actually our third guy, Jeff, who's usually here with us, he really loves this album. It's it's one of his favorites.
That's how I feel about Circles, the way you feel about Any Advice.
Yeah, also Circles is great too.
That vocal performance from Elias on that song is like one of my favorite that he's ever done.
Yeah,
like that delivery, those melodies. That's I really enjoyed listening to him sing that song.
Let's get to Joe's favorite album.
If we only knew the truth about it.
Recoil. Man.
Awesome.
Like, did you walk into the studio and say, so we're going to open the record with straight double bass?
It wasn't the plan. I mean, The Truth was the first song that we wrote for that record. We had actually been dropped from MCA. When we were writing that album, we did not have a deal at all. We were at Beeler Brothers Studios for almost a year writing that record. We were in limbo, pretty much. We didn't know what we were doing, like record deal wise. But we just kept writing. We started writing at our old buddy Jeff, who used to be in a band called Simple Kill out of Florida. They had a warehouse, so all those guys worked during the day, and rehearsed at night. So he said, hey, so we moved in and we rehearsed during the day every day, since, basically our job was Nonpoint, so we didn't want to, we were every day we get together 5 days a week, and, take the weekends off, but 5 days a week we were writing in there. And then we moved into Beeler Brothers Studio and just kept writing, and we were writing and recording that album. But when we wrote that song, The Same, I mean, when I heard the riff, like that part, I said, well, this calls for a double bass, because something about development that I did not talk about was the engineer, the producer was the same guy from the first record, banned all double bass from that record.
What?
Like, he didn't want anything. I got to do it on Circles, but he did not want any double bass. Like, he actually gave me 2 CDs to listen to. I already had them, but he gave me AC/DC Highway to Hell and AC/DC Back in Black. So that's why that record has more of a groove, more like straightforward stuff. Because, I mean, AC/DC is pretty straightforward, you know. So, but on this next record, you know, we're like, fuck it, you know, we're gonna do whatever we want. And when that song was written, you know, it's like, okay, I think we need a fill to start it, which is why the record starts with the drum fill. But, you know, that song was incredibly difficult to play because of how long the double bass is, and to keep it that consistent. We actually played it last year. The year before last. On one of our last tours, we busted it out. And I'm like, oh my God, now I remember why this song was so tiring, you know. But you know, I set my drums a different way. You know, I put my seat higher, so that way, you know, I could, you know, my legs were kind of, you know, digging more into the pedal, and my foot was kind of more on top of it instead of being even with it. So, and that worked out for me. But yeah, I mean, I got a lot of comments from my peers. Like, holy shit, dude, you just came right out of the gate. You know, but yeah, that was a fun record. That was a lot of fun because we had no pressure. We didn't have no time limit. We had the studio to our disposal. You know, we went there every day like we were going to a job, and just write and record, you know, like, and that record was done to tape. All the music.
How was that drums. Doing drums?
That was fun, actually, Cole, because I did that record in 2 days. I play a song that I would just punch in some parts, and that's it. You know, like we were so rehearsed. It was so easy to record. Like, I had no struggle with anything except actually that first song, The Same, because the verses, when I went in, I started playing what I thought was, like, I was basically mimicking the guitar riff with my kick. Basically, I was being a third guitar with my kick. And they're like, that's not like that. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, and then, wow, how they showed me the riff, I was like, there's no way I can learn this. This is something I've never done before. You know, like, this is completely out of my league. And so we said, we got to do it like this. So the riff was changed to match the drums that I recorded.
That's not the riff, Rob. It is now.
It is now. So, so that was the only song that really gave me a lot of trouble. The song I had a lot of fun that I actually nailed in the first take was the song, what was the song? Done It Anyway. That was a fun song to play. And it had more of a Sabbath type of groove. And I'm a big Bill Ward fan. That's one of my favorite drummers. So that was really a lot of fun to play. That's another song I wish we would play live. There's a lot of those songs on that record I wish that we still played. But man, you know, putting a set list together these days with 9 records, and now we're about to have 10. It's so hard.
Oh, it's killer. I mean, the first time I heard Recoil, I was like, holy shit, like, they're back. You know what I mean? Like, it was definitely one of those, like, if you were a Nonpoint fan that loved Statement but wasn't sure about development, you get kind of the, if you're the kind of person that wants to ignore that album completely, you can jump from Statement to Recoil and it almost be like there's no gap.
Yeah.
You know, it's an improvement in every way. And it's aggressive. It has everything that you liked about Statement on it, but it's improved. Like, the songs are more memorable. You know, obviously the production quality. Like, personally, I think it's higher even than it was on Development, in that, like, it was more, I don't know, like, almost more dynamic. You could shift from those really heavy, aggressive moments to kind of the more smooth, soulful aspects of it.
Yeah.
But, like, it all made sense. No,
I hear you. I mean, it was, like I said, a really fun album to make, and Definitely did well sales wise, and the truth did really decent at radio. So I really don't have a lot to complain about. So.
It got you a deal, right?
It got me a deal. That song got us a deal with Lava. And
who picked out the cover song?
Our old tech, one of my old drum techs, he kind of like just said it in passing on the bus. You guys should cover In the Air Tonight. And then we didn't really think much of it until we went in there to do the record. And then before the version you hear that's on that album, there's 4 others that exist that were done before we settled on that one.
Interesting.
Can I get a copy of that?
I don't even have a copy of that. I have no idea where those masters are at or anything.
I have to ask.
Yeah, wow. Yeah,
I'm a little impartial to this album. What can I say?
We were driving today because I was doing family stuff all day, and I let my wife. I popped on In the Air Tonight, just real casual, like I didn't tell her anything about it,
Yeah.
And she was like, "This is a really good cover," which is really unusual for her because she's kind of really like staunchly like against cover songs. Like she doesn't, she's like, why have a cover when you can just listen to the original, which in a lot of cases is valid, but no, she's like, no, this is really good. Like that, like, and I was like, oh, cool. Well, hey, guess what? I'm talking to the drummer from that band tonight, and
yeah, we think the whole purpose of a cover to me is to make it your own, and to me, the only thing we use from the song originally is the vocal melody and the big drum beat, the big drum fill. Other than that, nothing else is on the original track. So we kind of made the song our own.
Yeah, I don't know if whenever I bought this record, if I even knew it was a cover, because I was the kind of guy that just like metal all the time. Like I didn't have a lot of diversity in my music, and I remember just thinking, oh, this is a really cool Nonpoint song, and then I think it was Joe that was like, no, dude, this is, and that's a testament to making it your own, because, if you hadn't heard the original, you just think, oh, okay, this is cool. This is a cool, kind of different sounding Nonpoint song, but it still sounded like a Nonpoint song, and that mission
song
accomplished.
That song has opened many doors for us. So
I bet.
Being on Miami Vice, it's been on trailers for movies. It's been played pretty much in every single friggin' baseball stadium in the country.
You better believe it.
And that actually, and the Miami Dolphins actually come out to that song.
That's awesome.
When they hit the field, it was used as the Panthers, Florida Panthers rally song. It was also used for the year the Red Sox won the first World Series here in 2004. That was they were using it for the baseball playoffs, on TV. So it's definitely gotten a lot of love, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we've worshipped Recoil as much as we can. Definitely was a huge record for us personally, and I remember his drum teacher Rob was like a huge Nonpoint fan. And he's largely the reason why we're such big fans to this day.
Well, tell him thank you from me, sir.
We'll do so.
Hey, Rob. Rob says thank you.
Right. We're moving on to 2005's To the Pain. And I gotta ask, did somebody piss you guys off?
No, no. That is a very angry album, and it's just where we needed to be at that time, and that record definitely opened a lot of doors for us. We did a lot of killer tours on that cycle, and that was a really fun record to make. Again, I did the drums in 2 days. I did 8 songs in one day, and then did the rest the next day.
Were you drinking Red Bull the whole time? I mean, it.
No, man, I was just very inspired. We were rehearsing every single day. We wrote the record in a room. Did no Pro Tools and all that stuff. Our guitar player at the time had written 8 songs, and the only thing that he wrote that made the record was the beginning riff of Bullet.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, everything else was scrapped. Everything else we started from scratch.
Holy crap.
So it was that record really did a lot for us. for our career, and got us a lot of killer tours. We did a tour with Seven Dust, we did a tour with Buck Cherry, we did a tour with Disturbed.
Wow.
And it was like a really cool record, and that whole record was recorded in the key of A sharp actually, and which I think adds to the heaviness of the album. That was recorded with such a low tuning. But that we weren't pissed off, man. It's just that's what it was, man. That's where our hearts were at the time, and our fans really embraced that record, man. It's like they really were like, holy shit, here's Nonpoint again.
Yeah, I was totally on board because, I mean, at that time, 2005, that was kind of your rise of metalcore, like Hatebreed was blowing up and As I Lay Dying and stuff like that. Like those really heavy bands is what people were really into. And then I remember like hearing this Nonpoint record and thinking like, oh, well, they play kind of the older style that was popular a few years ago, and then I hear this record, and I'm like, the shit, like, yeah. I mean, they're not pulling any punches on this record. I mean, it is a bastard of heaviness. You know what I mean? Like
that album is definitely my favorite Nonpoint album, that we've ever done. And it was just a special time. It was just that record was just released at the right time, and it did so much for us. Bullet did so well at radio.
Oh my god!
Still to this day, as we play that song live, people go fucking crazy.
I lost my job this year in March, and I remember after I signed like the paperwork or whatever, you're like, you're not working here anymore, dude. I drove home and listened to Bullet with the name the entire time on repeat. Like it was, I was pissed off, and it was a perfect song to deal with that anger, and I remember thinking, like, I called Joe, I was like, we really need to do an On-Point episode here pretty soon, and
done.
I am happily reemployed now, but yeah, like it was definitely a rough time, and it's cool because like I listen to a lot of like really aggressive shit, but like there's just something about that record that just rings true because like I like heavy music for sure, like 100%. But there's something about heavy music that sounds sincere.
Yeah.
That carries a lot further than stuff that's heavy just because it's that style.
Oh no, it's
definitely in my top 5 Nonpoint songs for sure. And depending on how mad I am that day, like it could be number 1.
That record definitely did a lot for our career.
Yeah, I could see it, because it's hard. I think it's hard to stay relevant, because I mean the music scene had obviously changed significantly since Statement, and
yeah, totally.
a lot of your peers at that time either were sticking with the same shit that they had always played, and it's not shit. I mean, it was great whenever it was relevant, but whenever it stopped being relevant, everybody kind of just abandoned that style. So it was really cool to see, that there were bands out there, like Nonpoint that could just keep bringing it, even, despite whatever the musical landscape was at the time.
Yeah.
And I thought that, that record definitely is like really high marks for me, for sure.
Yeah, that was definitely a great time in Nonpoint history, for sure.
I remember going to pick that up at Best Buy thinking, because all I knew at the time was Recoil, and I was expecting Recoil Part 2. And I didn't realize... No, I didn't. But what I didn't realize was it was closer to Statement. It was closer to... And I don't have another way to say this, but there's a certain energy with punk rock and hard rock that the energy is in the vocals for the majority of Nonpoint songs for me. So it's interesting to listen to Recoil and hear how much louder and prominent the vocals appear to be. And then you get to The Pain, where it sits a little lower in the mix, but the music doesn't cease to be as intense. It's energy level 9 all the time.
Yeah.
So you're cranking it up in the stereo, in the car, and fuck whatever else is going on.
Thank you.
No joke. Yeah. It's funny because when we were preparing for this episode, because look, we try to be as critical as we can be with bands when we do their discography. You know, like we'll criticize a band, you know, for, you know, like falling off of the beaten path or not following the blueprint or following the blueprint too much. Because like metal fans in general are largely unpleasable.
Ladies and gentlemen, unpleasable metal fan.
Right. Like you can't, you know, if you do the same thing too much, people get mad. If you do something different, people get mad. You know, there's nothing you can really do to please everyone. So why should you try, right? You know?
Yeah, totally.
So in 2007, when Vengeance came out, I was like, okay. And this is actually a record that I didn't even buy when it came out because I was just, I don't know, I might have been broke or bought too many albums before it. So Vengeance was a record that I experienced more this week during the preparation for the episode. And I was surprised at just how like different it was, because I mean I think it would have been really easy for you guys at that point to just go all heavy the whole time.
Yeah, totally.
You know, it would have been easy, and in a certain sense that would have been like almost the sellout thing to do, right? Just do the same thing. You know,
it's just we've never. I mean, one thing I can say that if you listen to Statement, Development, Recoil, To the Pain, and Vengeance, sometimes it's hard to believe that it's the same band.
Absolutely.
You know, every single record we have tried to be different. You know, because I just think that why repeat what, you know, it makes no sense to repeat. It works for some bands, you know, like in some bands but to me it doesn't work. You know, I don't think that's the way we should do things. And that's why, like, when people listen to Nonpoint, they're never going to get the same record twice. You know, that's historically all of our albums are exactly that. You're definitely not going to get our the same record twice. Now, as far as Vengeance goes, that's another record that I'm not a fan of. I think there was a lot of turmoil in the band at that time, you know, and it reflected on the writing. And there was a lot of times when our guitar player at the time wasn't even there. You know, like I wrote the majority of that album, like musically. Musically, I wrote a lot of the guitar on that record. I'd say maybe 70% of that record I wrote. And with Elias, you know, just me and him in the room, you know, like, and, you know, but there are definitely some good songs on that record. I like a lot of the songs. What I really detest on that album is the production. I do not enjoy the production on that record. I think it's recorded. It sounds very thin. It's just, I don't like the cover of the album. You know, I didn't like the cartoon
with
thing,
the cartoon,
you know?
yeah, caricatures.
I mean, it was fun to see. It was cool to see me with a bat and whatever. And, you know, as a cartoon character, it was fun to see. But I definitely don't enjoy. I don't enjoy that record. I don't listen to that record. We only play one song off that album. It's Hands Off.
I was gonna say that's actually one of the best songs on the record.
Yeah, that's the song that we play on the album. Gets people going. They really enjoy the song, you know. But as far as other songs on the record, we haven't played any of those songs in a while. But the recording of it, I just don't like the production of it. I think it was very mediocre, and it could have been done better, you know. It was definitely not the record to release after releasing a record like To the Pain. That was such a difficult record to follow. You know, but like I said, at that time, we were all to the Pain. We were really into it, and during Vengeance, so it was just a lot of turmoil there. And you know, that was the last record with the original lineup, you know, that we had, and so that's not even a record that I even enjoy really, honestly talking about. You know, I don't really talk much about it. But live and learn. Like, to me, like, I think, once we get to the other records, I'll actually tell you my opinion. But
all right.
Let me ask you this, and if you don't want to answer, that's okay.
Okay.
I have this observation for records that were released between 2006 and 2009, and I always wonder what your perspective would be. Did the recording process change in those years? What I mean by that is Godsmack put a record out, Korn had just put an album out, your album came out, there's several mid to underground bands that kind of release these thin sounding metal albums, and I've only ever been able to figure out that they must have been done in studios that had just gotten the ability to record digitally, or in larger studios that had Studio B that had a new Pro Tools rig. And I think a lot of the records that were being put out were either the exact opposite of what they were doing 2 years prior, or they just hadn't figured out yet how to master digital recording.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. The first 5 albums were all recorded on the same console, and the only thing that changed was Pro Tools upgraded. Like you get Pro Tools 1, Pro Tools 2, Pro Tools 3, whatever. We recorded our Statement album on Pro Tools 1. It's like on the very first version of Pro Tools.
Ground level, yeah.
Yeah, everything was slow as fuck and all that stuff, but computer would crash every like 45 minutes or something.
Quantize? What the fuck does that mean?
There was no quantize back then. There was beat detector.
Right.
Oh, wow. That's a word going back.
Yeah, there is no quantizing like it is now. But nothing really changed. I mean, like I said, we recorded everything on the same exact gear, but every single record sounds different. And the only thing that changed is that same gear was, my manager bought all that gear and moved it it was the same gear, but it was in 2 different studios. The third, fourth, and fifth album were recorded at Wheeler Brothers Records, Wheeler Brothers Studios, but it had the same exact gear as the first 2 albums. Like, it was just, the gear was just moved from one place to another. But nothing had really changed. Nothing really. I mean, engineer-wise, the first 2 albums was recorded, engineered by Keith Rose, and the third record was engineered by Jason, our manager at the time. And then the last 2, the second, the third, fourth, and fifth, were engineered by my guitar player and by this guy named what's his name, Matt LaPlante. But the recording process didn't really change much. I mean, we were doing the same thing, recording to a click, recording, scratch track, blah, 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 blah. Like, not a lot of change.
I always ask because that's the time in modern history where iTunes had just become a thing and they were trying to market MP3s. And I really feel like listening to some of the albums that came out in that time frame, they all have one thing in common. They're thinner in their mastering than they were 3 years prior. So I always ask, was there something that changed? So when you tell me that nothing changed, at least is being recorded on the same equipment, 2 different studios, I just wonder who along the path, it's like an engineering process, who along the way did something not the same. And I'm not saying every album has to sound the same, because they absolutely don't and they shouldn't. But the consistent thing that I'm hearing in 2005 to 2009 is the records got thinner. And I honestly have never really figured out why.
Yeah, you know what? I've never really noticed that, but hey, you must have a better ear than I do.
Yeah, I mean...
Do you play with earplugs?
No, I don't.
I have one note for Vengeance that I wrote down in the preparation for this record, or for this episode, and it was just that I literally wrote, doesn't sound as big.
It definitely does not sound as big.
Because every Nonpoint album to that point, I keep saying point, but every album up to that era, or that record, every album before that was really big sounding, like that you could take it to the arenas, or that, like because Jeff actually hooked me up recently with a really good home sound system, where with like an actual amplifier and speakers and the whole deal. So like my vinyl sounds fucking amazing on it, and but I still play my CDs and stuff because they still sound good. Everything sounds good on it, but like when I listened to this, I didn't know whether or not it was because I was streaming it, because I don't have this record, like I don't have a physical copy of it. I didn't know if it was because I was streaming it through Bluetooth, to the sound system, or if it was just the way it was recorded. So when you tell me that you weren't happy with the production on it, like that confirms, kind of like what I wrote down on that. Like it just doesn't sound as big. I still like some of the songs on it, like I wasn't disappointed with the record overall, because like there aren't a lot of like with Nonpoint, we like, and we're not saying this just because you're on it, like we would tell the truth for sure no matter who was on it. Yeah. But just that like that record was not like the greatest sounding production wise, but there's not a lot of negatives because every record is so different. And like every time I would listen to a record whenever I was prepping up for the episode, it was like hearing a different band, and that was that's what kept me interested, because it's like a slog, like we're trying to prep up for like a Napalm Death episode that's coming up soon, and like
that's a huge discography.
Yeah, and that's hard because Napalm Death for the most part is a band that kind of delivers a very similar product throughout, and so especially with the earlier records, and so with a band like Nonpoint, it was actually a pretty easy listen, from beginning to end, because every album had something new to latch onto.
Yeah.
So we eventually I made it through. We got to Miracle, and this one I actually noticed a little bit more like there's no better way to say it, but like more noodly guitar, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot more rock influence on this album, and definitely another one that not one of my favorites. Like I definitely think the best part of that record was being able to record with Chad and Greg from Mudvayne.
Yeah.
They produced some of the songs on the album.
Okay.
And there was a lot of fun to work with those two. They had a lot of incredible ideas, and that's really the only positive that I can say about that album. I said that we got to work with them. We had changed guitar players, and replacing Andy was not easy. Dandy had our first guitar player. He just had this distinctive style of playing guitar that was really hard to find. And we got a guitar player, a guy from Chicago, and we started writing with him, and it just didn't. It just I don't know how to explain it. Just I guess the riffs were like kind of too stock. I guess that's what I want to say. That it wasn't. Not where we needed to be musically, but it worked. Miracle did well at radio as well, and that's the only song from that record that we play. Actually, is Miracle when we do play it. It was. We recorded that record in a guy's house, actually in Racine, Wisconsin. Recorded the drums in the basement, and he had he was up on the third floor of this control room, and actually it wasn't even a house. It was a house. It wasn't his house. He lived somewhere else. The house was just the studio. It's like in the middle of a neighborhood, kind of like, but it was fun. It was a fun record to do. I recorded those drums in 9 hours.
Holy shit.
So I recorded all the drums in 9 hours. And when I mean that 9 hours, that's the amount of time that I actually took to play on the record was 9 hours.
Wow.
It's not like I did it in days. I did it I think 3 days was 3 hours each day. So basically 9 hours I recorded. And There's some cool parts on that album. To me, what I was going to explain earlier, that personally myself, I wish I could take the best songs from Development, the best songs from Vengeance, and the best songs from Miracle and make one record.
Yeah.
And to me, that would be then another, I think it would be another killer Nonpoint album, if we did that.
Yeah.
Which songs would you pick?
Well, from Development, I'd pick Excessive Reaction, Circles, Your Signs, and I think that's it from that record. And then on, what was the next one? Vengeance, I'd pick Hands Off, Witness, and God, I'm trying to remember, I don't remember the titles of these songs.
That's all right.
And the song Vengeance, I like that song too. And on Miracle, I would pick Dangerous Waters, which I wrote that song. Actually, it was a lot of fun to write. A lot of double bass on that song. Electricity and Shadow. And then I would make that one Nonpoint album.
What would you call that record, Rob?
I don't know.
The Miracle of Vengeance.
Yeah, we'll make a playlist of that. Yeah, listen to that.
Yeah, the Miracle of a Developmental Vengeance or something, something like that. I don't know. Actually, I would call it Dangerous Waters.
Okay,
Dangerous
cool.
Waters.
Yeah,
that was Dangerous Waters. But I'm not to diss those albums. It's just, I think, like I said, those albums were kind of rushed. And just, I think just bands, I think, musicians are their own worst critic, and it's just, I wish things had turned out differently when we recorded those records, basically. But
I would call it the rock, the hard rock era of Nonpoint.
Yeah.
Because, I think up to that point I would have called Nonpoint a metal band,
Yeah, we like I said, we were at the mercy of the guitar player that we had, and like I said, him and Andy had two very different styles. So we got what we got.
Objectively, when you look at it, it's like there's nothing wrong with it. But if you're a metal fan, there might be things that you can't take away from it. Whereas if you're a hard rock fan, though, you're kind of in Nirvana, right? Like, not the band Nirvana, but just the state of mind,
Well, actually, I would add, for Miracle, I would add the song Lucky 13 too, the last song on the record. I like that song a lot.
That's a good one.
Taking it up to 10 tracks. Gotta love it.
Yep.
And then we would have the perfect Nonpoint record.
Well, then we'll make a playlist and we'll call it like Robb Rivera's,
Robb Rivera's Dangerous Waters.
Dangerous Waters. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, totally.
You should press that and sell it.
And then
press
that
it to
was
vinyl.
Then there was a lineup change after that record. It was only that person only would record on one album. So
okay.
That leads us to our self-titled
Nonpoint by Nonpoint with Robb Rivera of Nonpoint.
That was a very good comeback album. To me, Vengeance and Miracle, I call that the down. It was like a down time. It was like just not a good time. Like I said, neither one of them, I think, captured the To the Pain vibe or anything before that.
You're not kidding. Self-titled Nonpoint couldn't be better titled.
Yeah, and basically to us, it was like a new chapter. And then when we released I Said It, people were like, holy shit, like they're pissed off again. So, and that was a record that we recorded in Chicago at Groove Master. Got to work with Johnny K, incredible producer, incredible like arranger and songwriter. He was a lot of fun to work with. We did that record like in 2 months.
Wow.
But it was fun to work on that album. I think that album has a lot of great gems on it. That's like the Lights, Camera, Action, and
International Crisis.
International Crisis. You got Ashes. I think Go Time. The song Go Time's on there. I think at that, and that's really a good record. I really enjoy that album. And it was fun to make, and we had a really good cycle with that record. And And recording at Johnny's was awesome. I got to record on this awesome Gretsch USA maple kit that sounded insane.
Oh yeah,
that thing sounded just absolutely insane.
I'm a sucker for Birch, but
that maple kit. I think it's the first time I played on a maple kit, and it was like, God damn, this thing sounds amazing. I even tried to buy the fucking drum set from him. I wanted to buy it so bad. But that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun to do.
Is I Said It the unofficial sequel to Bullet with a Name? Because every time I hear this song, I feel like the song was called Bullet with a Name Part 2, and then you just said, no, I said it already. I said it.
I don't know. I mean, that song, that record was very personal. I mean, me and Elias were gone through some stuff, with our career, and the band and whatnot. And I said it was definitely written about a specific person.
Wow.
And there's a line that says, your mother should have left you in the balls of your pops. I mean, you couldn't have gotten more angrier and pissed off than that line.
That's venomous. Because
the first time that song actually came together. I heard a drum beat online. I was watching a drum clinic online on YouTube or something. I heard this drum beat this guy was doing. So I started playing around with it, and I started changing things up, but with the same kind of feel. And I sent it to Elias, just the drum beat. Then he sent it back with vocals. He wrote those vocals, but it was called I Did It. Before it was called I Said It. And then I started thinking about it. I said, listen, why don't you say I said it? But right before you start that chorus, you have to say something that's going to be, people be like, oh shit, type of deal. And then when he said back, the mother should have left you on the balls and your pops, and I said it. I'm saying that, what I'm saying? Like, when he put those two lines together, I said, dude, that is the best fucking line.
It is. It really is.
You could have ever said in your fucking life.
What was the name on that bullet again, Elias?
I wrote that. What's funny is I wrote that in my notes, and I was gonna ask you about it. Like, what the fuck is that? But like, I'm glad you brought it up. But yeah, like, that was intense, man. Like, you don't get much more real than that. Like, to make a statement with a period at the end of it. You know what I mean? Like,
the thing is that every song on that record is about a certain people, and like I said, it's a very, very personal album. Elias was very angry because at that time, I mean, we had signed to Razor and Tie. We were the only two when the two other guys left the band. Well, we let go of the guitar player, and then the other guy, the bass player, left right after we let go of the guitar player. Me and Elias were left in limbo. We're like, holy fuck, what are we gonna do? We don't have a band, and so we signed the deal with Razor and Tie, just me and Elias alone, without even any demos or nothing. And when we started writing those songs, and he started writing those lyrics, he started to remember all these things that led to where we were at that point in time. And that's some of the most personal lyrics. Like I always tell Elias, I text him when we talk about new songs, I said, my favorite Elias is the one that's pissed off. That's the one that people connect with. And once he put those lyrics out, people are like, holy shit, like what the fuck is going on? And there's a lot of personal stuff on that record. And but it was a great comeback album. After releasing Vengeance and Miracle, that was a great comeback album.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So it really, really put us back on the map. And we did a killer cycle on that record, and fun to tour with. It was fun to play those songs live, especially International Crisis.
Oh yeah,
that was such a killer song to play live.
Oh yeah,
that's another one we're gonna have to dust off, I think.
I wrote in my notes also for this one, I wrote Big Again.
Yeah.
It made me feel the way I felt the first time I heard Statement. Like I was like, holy shit, like not like it's the same record, but it's, very much, in the same vein as far as the anger and, just the fucking the brazenness of the lyrics.
Well, too, I mean, we had Johnny K producing and mixing. Then we had this guy named Brad Blackwood from Memphis who mastered it. That's why the record sounds so huge.
It sounds great, man. Like it's Razor and Tie too. It's funny, that was their dip into heavy music, because I think at the time Razor and Tie. Before that, I know Razor and Tie used to release like kids albums. Like like kids pop and stuff like that.
Well, they had All That Remains at that time too, and
I think they had Norma Jean at the time too.
They had Norma Jean for a little bit. They had Shadows Fall and Hatebreed for a little bit. But they moved on to like Star Set and Pretty Reckless and Devour the Day. And they actually had POD for one album.
Yep.
But
remember that.
Yeah, they were a fun label for sure. But that was definitely a cool record. That was that was a whole new lineup. And we had two guitar players in the band. So we had two guitar players and a new bass, two new guitar players and a new bassist. So that was the first time we were a 5-piece, and you can definitely hear the reflection of that on the record. So.
Oh, for sure. So, if the cell title wasn't enough of a return,
I see where you're going with that.
You go to 2014's The Return.
That was a fun record. We went with Johnny K again, same production team, same lineup. That was the last version with one of the guitar players, Dave. He was no longer in the band after that recording, actually. So, but he did record on the album, and that was that's another heavy hitter. There's some good songs. There's a lot of good songs in that record. I really like that record a lot.
Oh my God, Breaking Skin stands out to me.
Yeah, Breaking Skin, and you had Pins and Needles.
Yep.
The album opener. There was another one. I can't remember the Crashing the World Around Me, I think it's called. I can't remember the name of that song.
There's a little bit of metalcore on this record. I mean, a little bit.
Of what?
A little bit of metalcore. Like in some of the more melodic riffing. It's definitely and like Pins and Needles. I hear it the most. When it first started off, I was like, shit. This is. They're definitely flexing the metal muscle on this one.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to, we just wanted to stay aggressive, And I said, people love the melodic side of Nonpoint, but people do love that aggressive side as well.
Absolutely.
And so that definitely, those two records, I think it definitely a great comeback for both. Breaking Skin did so good at radio.
Oh my God, yeah.
It was played everywhere. It was awesome. And that was a great touring cycle for sure.
Yeah, it was a great record. It definitely, when I was listening to it for this, I was like, damn, like it's kind of the Nonpoint thing at this point where you're like, they made me feel the same way, but differently, And
there's a song on there too called Razors. That's really cool too. And there's one, the real fast thrashy one. I can't remember. That's so weird. I can't remember the titles of our songs. But a real fast thrashy one. We did that on the Megadeth tour. That song went over really well.
You're 9 albums in, man. It's understandable.
Yeah.
You're trying to remember 90 track titles here.
Yeah, and I went on my ASCAP to check my account. There's 148 songs.
Jesus.
Recorded works that I have done. 148.
Yeah, I mean, The Return was definitely one of the highlights, and so. Whenever I first got back into Nonpoint, because I want to say my own personal history with the band was, I think I went all the way up to, I want to say Vengeance.
It was either Vengeance or To the Pain with you.
It was probably To the Pain was the last one that I really loved. And then I jumped back in with self-titled with Nonpoint, and then I think the next one that I heard after that, originally was the Poison Red. And, I mean, I was really surprised, again, because, like you said, we don't ever get the same Nonpoint album And it definitely feels like, you know, you guys have established that kind of that credibility over time, where it's like we weren't just a band that, you know, started off heavy, went soft with development, and then just went into mediocrity after that. You know, that's the case with a lot of bands. And like I said, I really enjoyed listening, you know, going through all 9 albums. And sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's like, oh fuck, here's another one. You know, like, and you know, but man, to jump. I'm sorry, I'm jumping right into the Poison Red, but like that record definitely like reintroduced me to Nonpoint. I think I got into the Poison Red. I think it was in 2017, really, after we had started the podcast. And you know, when we talked to you the first time, I was gonna just gush about that record, but then I was like, no, we need to keep it about thrash metal. And you know, it was definitely the record that made me just be like, you know, people can say whatever they want to say about, you know, melodic bands in 2016 or 2017, but like no band does melodic heavy music like Nonpoint does, you know. And like these songs get under your skin. Bottled Up Killer Bees, like holy shit, like that. First of all, great album or great song title. Yeah. And you know, just the aggression that song starts with, you know, like I don't know, man. Like you don't have a lot of bands that you've been listening to since 2000 that will put out a record in 2016 that will surprise you.
Oh, yeah, that one was the first one with BC as our guitar player, and that guy's just a massive talent. You know, he's the best guitar player we've had since Andy. You know, and no disrespect to the other two. You know, it's just he comes more from our school of thinking, and you know, we have a lot of the same influences. And he was in the band Switched that opened up for us in 2001. So we've known BC for a long time, and when the opportunity came, and we've been actually hunting him down since our first guitar player left. We were trying to get him in the band since that time, but there was always something in the way, or some scheduling, or he was already in another band, you know. But they once we started writing for the record and writing with him, man, he brought just this energy, and he brought the songs like Divide and Conquer Them and Generation Idiot, and you know, and Standing in the Flesh, and all these songs. Like, it's like, man, these are sick ass tracks, you know. And my personal favorite on that album is Last Dying Breath. I mean, that's to me the perfect Nonpoint track. You know, we played that on our last tour now, and it was just so awesome. It goes over well, so amazing. Gives it all the cool slow stuff and how it stops in certain parts. And that was a really fun album. That's probably my best recording experience, aside from this last record that we just did, was the Poison Red. It was such a great time. It was just killer time, to be honest.
Do you invite someone to join the band, or is it like us underground bands where we just call up the next person we know that can play guitar and say, just come hang out with us and jam and see what happens? Once you're doing the Poison Red, are you bringing somebody in because you know they fit the role, or is it different?
Well, we already knew with BC because we knew his style. Like I said, we grew up with the same in the same era. You know, we both came out pretty much at the same time. His old band Switch and us came around the same time. He's been a massive Nonpoint fan and a fan of my first guitar player since we toured together. So he does Andy's music. He does it incredibly amazing. He does it really good justice to it. You know, he plays it pretty much almost as authentic. Like, I can close my eyes and I think it's Andy in the room. You know, like, yes, it sounds so authentic the way he plays. They're both very blues-based influenced guitar players. So it worked out. I mean, we didn't even have to audition the guy. You know, we just hey, come. Hey, you want to join the band? I asked him, do you want to join? I didn't ask him come jam. I already knew it was going to work out because I've seen him play millions of times with all of his other bands. So I knew it was going to be okay. But it was a lot of fun, man. It's been a lot of fun to write and record with him. That guy's got endless fucking ideas. It's insane.
Yeah, that blues influence, man. Like that's where you hear all those traditional metal influences come out, you know?
Yeah.
When people ask me, you know, what do you think about Nonpoint, you know, or what do you describe them as? I always say a metal band. Like, first and foremost, it's not death metal, you know? It's not grind you into the fucking ground.
I think when people ask me, I mean, we have influences of hard rock, metal, thrash, hardcore, and blues. Basically, I'm the hardcore thrash guy, and hip hop, and Elias and Rashid are hip hop, but I am also a metal guy, and I like the blues. BC loves the blues, loves metal, and he loves bands like Gojira. You know, and he likes this new band called like Night Versus.
Oh yeah, Night Versus is awesome.
You know, like and we listen to like Animals as Leaders. You know, and we listen to Deftones. We listen to Mastodon. You know, we listen to I listen to old school, like, you know, I listen to old school stuff like Anthrax, Metallica, Slayer. You know, and we just mold all that stuff. My singer listens to At the Drive-In, Deftones, Circa Survive, but he also likes Drake. And he likes Biggie Smalls. He likes Jay-Z. You know, he likes a lot of different stuff. Like, guitar player is huge into old school. Like, this guy can sing any old school. You play an old school hip hop song, that motherfucker knows it. Like, he just knows everything about hip hop. You know,
I believe it.
And but he also likes, you know, he likes metal. You know, he likes Metallica. You know, he likes Deftones. He likes, you know, and we all listen to Killswitch, you know, Lamb of God, you know, Chimera, you know, we like all these bands, you know. That's I think that the cool thing about Nonpoint is if you listen to all our records, you're gonna hear all those influences on every single album. There's like on the first record, there's a song called Hive on there. There's a part I wrote that's a complete New York hardcore ripoff drum beat and guitar riff. You know, and people fans that listen to have no idea, probably, and many don't know about New York hardcore.
They're not thinking about Biohazard. Yeah, look when they're listening to it.
They're not thinking about Biohazard. I was thinking, when I wrote that part, I was thinking about Biohazard, Sick of It All, Agnostic Front, Chromax. That's what I was listening to when I wrote that part. You know, simple hardcore beats, but, you know, like aggressive, you know, and so I think that's been the beauty of our band. We've been people have labeled us as this new metal thing for years, and that's fine. I don't care. Of course, there's a guy rapping in the band. He's got to be new metal. You know?
New metal maybe on the first couple records, but...
Yeah, but, I mean, I don't even think, like, there's no way you can even classify as new metal in development. There's not one single rap on that song.
No, yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
It's completely melodic album. Like, he didn't start rapping again until Bullet with a Name. Like, from Statement and those two records in between and To the Pain, there was Development and Statement out of Recoil did not have any rapping on them at all. There was a song called The Truth was inspired by Killswitch Engage. You know, there's no rapping on that record. So it's when people throw us into that thing, not realizing how deep it doesn't, honestly, the new metal tag does not bother me at all. If you want to call me that, if that's what you think of us, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. But I think these people don't realize how deeper it is with us musically.
They don't see the greater musical palette that's there. Yeah.
I mean, there's so much more to us than what they're, when they release, when there's a new, like we're releasing a new record in August, you know, and they're like, new metalers Nonpoint released new album. And it's like, they still to this day call us that. And that's fine. That's fine. I think the one thing that's completely, the one genre that they put us in that I think really describes it was alternative metal.
Yeah, that's a good one because it encompasses all those different influences.
Yeah, so I think that's the most accurate description of the band, you know. So, but yeah, man, I don't know, man. It's just we have a lot of influences. BC brought a whole mess of influences into. That's why I think the Poison Red came out the way it is. But the new record, he really. Have you heard any of the new stuff?
I haven't heard any of it yet because I'm the kind of guy that only listens to a record once it comes out because I like to hear the whole thing.
Okay, I'm about to have you break that tradition.
Oh, okay.
So go to Spotify or YouTube, whatever. Listen to Dodger Destiny and Chaos and Earthquakes.
All right, let's do it, Joe. Pull it up.
If you want to pull it up right now and listen to Dodger Destiny, then you're going to hear something you've never heard from us.
All right,
and then go ahead and pull it up. I'll wait.
We're pulling it up right now.
So there's a lyric video, or there's a normal. Oh, I hear it.
Damn, that's some thrash.
That's where we're at right now. So.
Damn, dude, I'm looking forward to this for sure. We were gonna ask you some questions, but I think this song.
I think this answers it.
Kind of says it all. Yeah.
Are you listening to Dodger Destiny?
Dodger Destiny, yeah, right now.
Okay.
I like that aggressive open for sure.
Elias is just spitting fire the whole time on that album. On that song.
We're watching it on YouTube. There's 50 thumbs down, so 50 people don't know what the hell they're talking about.
How many thumbs up?
Oh, way more, like 300 and something.
Okay, that's the only thing that matters.
Yep. So true, so true.
Thumbs down don't mean nothing to me.
Right.
Those negative feedback means absolutely nothing to me. There's some negative comments on there, and I don't care. You don't like it. You don't like it. You don't like it. And the thing is, you can't make people like the record. If they don't like it, they don't like it.
Actually, the top comment is "Screw all you downvoters." That's awesome. We'll probably when this drops. When does it drop, in August?
August 24th.
August. Oh my God, that's right before.
We'll be listening to that in the car, going down to Nashville for Rock N Pod 2018.
Yeah, there's a podcast expo in Nashville that we're going to.
Wow. That's awesome.
And so yeah, we'll be listening to this on the way down.
Where are you based out of?
St. Louis.
Oh, okay, St. Louis. We're actually playing. Yeah, we're playing St. Louis, I think.
We will. We'll definitely be there, and we will come by and say hi.
I would love to meet you guys, man.
For sure. It'll be fun. So, but yeah, man, we did it. We made it through. Technically, we made it through 9 albums, but a little bit about a 10th. And
9.1.
9.1. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So the new album is called X, which is Roman numeral for 10, which is our 10th record. And August 24th, man, it drops on Spinefarm.
Very cool. Well, we'll definitely be listening to that whenever we head down to Nashville.
Yeah, and go check out the next song, Chaos and Earthquakes.
Yeah, man, thanks so much for doing this with us. We don't really get a chance, to sit down and get kind of the real scoop behind every album. A lot of it is just our opinions and just our conjectures of what we think is going on behind the scenes. But we don't ever know for sure, No,
I mean, it was a lot of fun. Anytime you guys want to chat, just let me know.
Yeah, for sure.
And on that note, this has been episode 72 of Discography Discussion. Thank you for listening. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at discussmetal. Subscribe to our podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher. Visit discussmetal.com for all things discography discussion, and please send questions and comments to danandjoeshow@gmail.com. If you are not a patron, you can become one at patreon.com/discussmetal. We have some sweet perks. $1 gets you into that exclusive Patreon feed of album reviews and other exclusive features. Thank you, Robb Rivera, for hanging out with us again and talking about yourself, but not just about yourself, about the music and the people that make the music and the fans that enjoy the music. That's what I got.
Sounds good.